Today, we're talking about a remedy you probably think you know, Ruta Graveolens. Yeah, it's the one for sprains and strains, right? Well, yes, but that's really only scratching the surface. We're about to see there's a much deeper story here, so let's just dive right in.
Okay, so it sounds like the beginning of a weird joke, doesn't it? You've got physical injury, a super modern problem, and then this really intense emotional state. What could possibly connect them? Well, stick with me because the answer is Ruta, and it's the key to understanding what this remedy is truly all about.
And this is exactly why we're digging in. Even the legendary homeopath J.T. Kent pointed out that Ruta often gets passed over. Why? Because its symptoms are tricky. They're hard to pin down. That tells you there's a real complexity here, something that isn't obvious at first glance, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
So what is this stuff, anyway? Well, it all starts with a plant, sometimes called the herb of grace. It's actually really pretty, has these unique bluish leaves, and when you crush them, you get this really distinct smell. But right there, that kind of hints at its double nature. In its raw form, you have to be super careful with it. It can actually have toxic effects on your skin, your stomach, your liver. So it's this beautiful plant with some serious power hidden inside.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We've touched on its contradictory nature. Next, we'll get into its main reputation as the injury specialist. Then we'll look at what happens with overexertion, think modern life. And then we're going to peel back the most fascinating layer of all, the bruised state of mind, before pulling it all together for the complete picture.
All right, let's start with what Ruta is famous for. If you've ever heard of it, this is probably why. When it comes to physical injuries, this is its home turf.
But here's the thing, it's not just any pain. It's the kind of pain that points to Ruta. We're talking about a deep, sore, lame, just profoundly bruised feeling. It can feel like it's everywhere, even if the main injury is just in one spot. It has this special attraction to our connective tissues, bones, joints, and especially tendons. The wrists and ankles, those are classic hotspots for Ruta.
And if we want to get really specific, and we do, we have to talk about something called the periosteum. Just think of it like a tough, fibrous skin that's wrapped tightly around all of our bones. It's absolutely crucial for healing. Well, Rutafork is famous for zeroing in on injuries right there, to that specific layer. That's why the pain feels so deep, like it's right on the bone itself.
So this is the big question, right? How do you tell it apart from other remedies? Let's take arnica. Everybody knows arnica. Arnica is for that initial shock, that big, visible, black and blue bruise on the surface muscles. But Ruta is for when the injury goes deeper. It's for when the pain is in that bone covering, in the periosteum, and in the tendons. It's all about depth.
And we can get even more precise. Let's compare it to Ruta's Tox, another huge remedy for sprains. This is just brilliant. Ruta's Tox is your go-to for injuries to the extensor tendons. Those are the ones you use to straighten a joint. Think tennis elbow. But Ruta, it targets the flexor tendons, the ones you use to bend a joint. Think golfer's elbow. I mean, how specific is that?
Okay, so we're moving on now. We're going beyond that one-time fall or that single accident. What about when the injury isn't from one event, but from just doing too much for too long? This is where the picture of Rutita gets really interesting, and frankly, a lot more relevant to our modern lives. Does this look familiar? I mean, who doesn't do this? This is maybe the most common form of overexertion today. That feeling you get after hours glued to a laptop or a tablet or your phone. Yeah, that is a classic trigger for the next layer of Ruta symptoms.
And the symptoms people describe are just so vivid. It's not just that your eyes are tired. No, they feel hot. Some people say they feel like balls of fire. Your vision starts to blur after you've been doing any kind of detailed work. Could be sewing, reading, or, staring at a million pixels on a screen. And the ache, it isn't on the surface. It's this deep pain in the eye that can feel like it's shooting straight back into your head.
And here you have one of those weird, quirky little symptoms that really help you pinpoint a remedy. A person who needs Ruta might have this awful backache from overdoing it, but here's the key. It gets better, sometimes only better, from lying down flat on their back. It sounds like a tiny detail, but it's a huge clue. It's a powerful signature for Ruta.
All right. We've talked about the bruised bones. We've talked about the overstrained eyes. But now we get to the core of it all. We're peeling back that final layer to see what the Ruta state of mind feels like. And this, right here, is where everything is going to click into place.
This one word. This is the emotional heart of Ruta. It's not just about being sad or angry. This central, overwhelming feeling, is that you have been deeply, profoundly deceived, cheated, tricked, like some huge injustice was done to you, and you were made to look like a fool.
And that feeling of being deceived it blossoms into this whole mental state. You're deeply dissatisfied with everything, with yourself, with other people, with your work. You start to get suspicious, you argue with people, you feel like everyone is just getting in your way. And then there's this really strange twist, an anxiety that feels like a guilty conscience, like you're the one who did something wrong. It can even grow into this recurring fear or delusion that you're about to be arrested.
So what does all that add up to? Well, it adds up to a state of total inflexibility, a kind of mental and emotional stiffness. You just can't bend, you can't forgive, you can't let go of the anger, the grievance, that feeling of being wronged. You are completely and utterly stuck.
And this is the quote that unlocks the whole thing. It connects the mind and the body perfectly. Remember Ruta's big physical issue? Those stiff, sore, inflexible tendons? Well, this suggests that those physical tendon problems, that physical inflexibility, can show up when you feel like your work, your effort, everything you're putting out there is seen as useless, devalued, ignored.
So now it's time to put it all together. We've looked at the physical side, we've looked at the mental side. Let's bring them both together and see the single, complete picture of Ruta.
So here's how it all connects. It starts with a trigger. It could be a simple physical injury, sure, but it could also be that more subtle injury of just grinding away, overexerting yourself at something that feels completely pointless and unappreciated. From there, you get the physical result, that deep, bruised soreness and stiffness, especially in the tendons. And that physical state, it's a perfect mirror of the mental state of feeling deceived, dissatisfied, and becoming stubbornly inflexible. So the bottom line is this. The physical stiffness in the tendons is literally the body expressing that mental inability to bend or to let go.
And that really leaves us with one last thought. We started this whole journey with a sprained wrist, and we ended with the deep feeling of being cheated. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How often might our own unexplained aches and pains, our stiffness, our physical complaints, how often are they actually the voice of a deeper, bruised state of mind, just trying to be heard?